Hello, this is a pre-release of a small digital controller. The schematic and the board files are at the end of this video. This is the proof that it works. I got new software that I'm adding to it. I'm making it more of a compact package to give out. That way you don't have a bunch of extra code that you don't need. So I'll go ahead and plug it in. I'll prove that it works with the software package that I've put together for it to this point. Right now it's using C# and Python. I'll go ahead and get started with it. So this is a small part of the code. This is just a C#. It's very short. I'll go ahead and show you that it's working. This is the software interface I've added to it this time. As you can see right now, there's no selections. When I select A, you'll see output A. You also see the command change. This is what I'm writing to Python. I have a small script that I'm writing this command to, and all I'm doing is changing the 1, the 0, and the 0 over here. I'm changing these right here. As you see, I'll change through this. It'll go through those. So now it's a 2. Now I have 3, and over here, I can select these as a 1 in another one. So these are independent of these other bits. So these I can just toggle them one at a time. These will never be on at the same time. It'll either A, B, C, or D. And then no selection means nothing selected at all. These I can turn them on and off. The board that I'm designing, that it will not have 2 auxiliaries on. It'll have 1 auxiliary. I'm designing where it has these bits right here and 1 auxiliary, and then you use 2 boards per chassis. That way you can you can control multiple bits out of 8 bits. This is just 4 bits right here that will control these and this one, and then you have another 4 bits that will control the other board off the same USB interface. But anyway, that's proof that this works. I'll go ahead and show you the code. Again, if you watch these, like when I press the auxiliary, now you see this one changed. Now you see that one changed. And like you just watch these and they change along with it. So I'll go ahead and close that off, power it down. Now I'll show you the script. This is the C# program right here. I'll give this away after I prove that everything's done. It's not completely finished. I want to make sure that it doesn't have any issues, compiling and creating an executable in a setup file. The other file that I have is a Python. The other file that I have is a Python script. It's over here. And this is it right here. It's a very small file. And basically all I'm doing is I have 3 arguments that I'm passing in. The registers 0 through 0, bit 0, 1, and 2, and then I have the auxiliaries that I'm passing in. And it's just a small little Python file. And this is it's using what is called Blinka. It comes from Adafruit. Someone developed that, and that's how I've been communicating with the I/O pins, GPIO pins. These are the schematics for this board. This is a free software. Eagle is a free software for schematic capture and board layout for hobbyists. If you're doing this for your own, you're trying to sell it or something, like, you probably need to buy a copy of it or you might get in some trouble. But anyway, this is free for hobbyists. So I have my schematic here. And it has 2 pages. This is active low, but because I'm using NAND gates, it'll be active high coming out, and the rest of the circuit is active high. So that was a small change I made. I was using OR gates, and now I'm using NAND gates. I also added a buffer on the output because the board I want to drive is a relay board, and it required 15 to 20 milliamps to drive. And the output of these was not enough to drive that kind of current into another device. So I put a buffer on the output. This is the second page of the schematics. This is the part where I'm going to test the relay part of it out. I know it's going to work just by the way it looks, but I always expect some kind of problems because I've always, even in software, even though I've written software for about 20 years, I find some kind of problems. There's always a bug I have to fix somewhere. The board layout is on this area. Um, and I can also go through the Gerber files, which are over here, and it shows, the board layouts on this as well. But I think it's going to work, and I don't think I have any problems. The only thing I really added was this buffer for the output and the OR gate. I changed the NAND gates instead of OR gates. So that's the only things I really changed. Everything else seems to be the same. So that will be the schematic. I have my files over here. My PDF is right here. So it's basically the same thing. That this is my assembly drawing. There's not much to it. It's just a small board schematic, and then the layout. So I think it'll work. All I need to do is build this. It only costs for one board and the relay board is about $50 for the components and having 5 bare boards built. The 5 bare boards is $21. The relay board's like $11. The rest of the components doesn't cost very much for the components that go on the board. Anyway, and if you were to buy the Adafruit board, that's another $14.
If you were to ask any of the guilty parties who raped April Hawley, they would say, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. If you were to ask any of the guilty parties who raped Michelle Smith, they would say, I don't know anything about what you are talking about. If you were to ask the guilty parties who raped Kelly Miller, they would say, I don't know anything about what you are talking about. If you were to ask any of the guilty parties who raped Lee Tran or had anything to do with her being raped, they'd say, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. If you were to ask any of the engineers who attempted to rape Han Wong at a post office in Austin, Texas, they'd say, I don't know nothing about what you're talking about. Right, Bill Bartol. If you were to ask any of the people who sacrificed Brett Finnerty, me, through hypnotism and faking deaths and torture, none of the guilty parties will ever tell the truth because they don't want to go to jail for what they have done.
And why did Beth Kimbrough tell me this? That's why I want to know. Why did she say this to me? She goes, you're not going to be dipping your head in buckets of ice water over me. I'm not Beth Rainbow. I kept asking her what she meant. And she said, Jeff Hunt said you're going to be dipping your head in buckets of ice water over me. What does she mean by that, Jeff Hunt? Because to me, that sounds just like something that comes out of, this little interview they have with Joe Rogan about Lackland, Air Force Base, the MK Ultra project. And I'm going to play these little samples for you, Jeff Hunt, but this kind of links you and Sean Finnerty and Lone Grove into me being hypnotized on Lackland Air Force Base.
Was Beth Rainbow. I mean, I have all the testimony. There was actually a trial, a retrial, and sentencing. And every time it came up, it was really frustrating because he never testified. So it was either his wife or his mother who would talk about it. It was mostly his mother saying, well, all I knew was they wanted him to be involved in this 2-year study to try to relieve his migraines. He would have such horrible migraines, he would put his head in buckets of ice water. It raises huge questions about this was an experiment gone wrong, that he was part of one of these experiments at Lackland Air Force Base.
Now, Jeff Hunt, to be perfectly clear on who I'm speaking about, you are Jeff Hunt. I am Brett Finnerty. This person here is Beth Kimbrough. And you've known what you've done to me all this time, me and April, Shane. All these people have been hurt because you don't want to tell the truth, because now you've got a family. Why won't you tell the truth, Jeff Hunt? Because you were at the Daytona race where Dale Earnhardt Sr. faked his death. He got out of the race car, waved at the crowd, got in the ambulance on his own, of his own will, of his own 2 feet, and then drove away, and he was still alive. But then they announced later that he died on impact. You were there February 18th, 2001. And your cousin Greg Biffle is a NASCAR driver, so he knows the truth too. This person is Troy Taylor. Now, Troy Taylor was upper, management type of engineer. He was underneath our manager, Robert Kaminsky. He was my boss, where I made an engineer at Alcatel. See, they had things going on that was kind of shady in the background. They weren't telling me, and they weren't telling other people. What I heard was that Lee Trent was trying to find out who raped her at Alcatel. I believe it was Bill Hopper. I think a lot of people know who it is. They don't want to tell the truth because they'd go to jail because they conspired to make this stuff happen to me. But Troy Taylor, I heard he was walking her around trying to find stuff out. He was asking her questions. Did this, did what this, and I heard he was the last person. He took her into a restaurant and he raped her in a restaurant. I heard that Troy Taylor from Alcatel is the last person that raped Lee Trent. Just want you to know where he works, who he is. The other thing that I want to mention is when I was laid off, they said it was a telecom bust. There's no such thing as a telecom bust. There's not. But they told me there's a telecom bust. And, everybody's laying off. But see, when I went to Yada Networks, that's how they got me to go to Yada Networks. I go to Yada Networks, and there's Scott. I don't know what his real name is. He goes to Scott Rothrock. It's Scott Odell. I don't know who he really is. But he changed his name multiple times. And he was supposed to be, our upper manager there too. He was our director of engineering. And I don't know where he is now, but this guy's at Nokia living it up, just thinking it goes away. What he did, it doesn't go away. Troy Taylor, I'm going to make sure you go to prison, not only for, raping Lee Trent at Alcatel and setting me up, but the attempted murder that you placed upon me. One thing I want to mention about Yada Networks is that Alcatel funded them. Alcatel Networks, USA, funded Yada Networks. Now, to be clear on who I'm speaking about, this is Troy Taylor. This is Lee Trent. And if Brett Finnerty would have harmed Lee Trent, no possible way Lee Trent would have spent time with me in Vietnam. She would have tried to have me arrested. Is somebody going to start telling the truth? Are you going to continue to prove that nobody in this city is worth trusting? Everybody's a liar, because that's what you're proving. Everyone in this city knows that anybody who's been prosecuted in the state of Oklahoma, Texas, anywhere where I've been at, where everybody just flat out lies to my face and walks around like a robot, you're proving you can't be trusted in a court of law as a witness or as a police officer or as a judge, because all you do is pretend you lie.
I remember around the year 1989, I saw something like this on TV. And Tommy Duncan looked at me and goes, "I know what you're thinking, Brad. It's not me. I know what you're thinking." I was like, "But you just came back from Detroit. You was a police convention or something like that." He goes, "I know what you're thinking, Brett. It's not me." But I heard somebody came and talked to you too. I can't remember everything that happened because you guys know how to use hypnotism and stuff like that. But I remember that incident where you kept saying, "I know what you're thinking, Brett. It's not me. I know what you're thinking. It's not me." Well, it kind of looks like, similar to you, but I remember somebody saying something like, "You just happen to end up in the same bar with this guy," and all of a sudden this thing happened. So I don't know the truth to it, but I think someone wants to talk to you about that. Tommy Duncan is probably the same cop who came down here to ask you questions about it, around 1989.